Well, well, well. Welcome back to Living Like a G. And this story time has a little bit of salt with it. Honestly, though, the light behind actually really fits for me to have a story time. Somebody has jacked my stuff and not given me credit. Which, honestly, out of all the times I've done stuff, this is the first time that I know of that this has happened. Basically, here's the story. I went to this person's house, did a lot of content with them. They kind of invited me into their session. They were having a session. I wasn't invited, but I was in the room, and then they invited me. I was like, cool. In the beginning of the session, I didn't give any input. I was like, no, I'm not going to give any input because it's not my session. And I don't want to give input. And then they take my idea, and then they're like, well, you weren't really invited to the session, right? Which I get. That's totally fine. No big deal. So I'll just sit here and just relax and, be on my phone. Well, then they're like maybe 20 minutes in, and they're like, well, what do you think about this and this and that and this? And help us. I'm like, okay, now I've been invited to the session, right? I helped write this freaking song. Top to bottom, there's 3 of us in there. 2 of us basically write it. The other person didn't really write it, but, it's their song. And he is so jazzed about the song. He's like, I love it. This is my best song yet. I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, cool. Seems like he really likes it, right? He's like, I'm going to track vocals. So I step out of the room to track vocals because he seemed like he was kind of nervous to sing in front of people. And I come back, it's done. And I'm like, cool, this sounds great. Flash forward 3 months. He starts posting about it on a certain social media platform. I'm going to be very vague on who this is. Like, if somebody figures out who it is, that's on you guys. I'm probably not going to be like, yeah, you're right in the comments or nothing. A lot of people already know who this is about, so it's fine. But, continuing on. 3 months later, he starts posting it on social media, and he's like, oh my gosh, 20,000 likes, and I'll drop it. Starts like heavily promoting it. Now, at first, he shows the song, and I'm like, we all do this. All of us singers and stuff, we all like tease the song to see if we can get any buzz. If we do, then we'll immediately drop it. Normal. But then it starts getting more intense. Like, I start seeing the post like once a week, and then twice a week, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay. Then he's like, we have a release date. And at this point, I'm like, you have a release date, and I have not heard from you or your team or anything about contracts. Not anything. The song basically releases with a music video. Have not heard from him. So I message him, and I go, hey, man, love that you love the song. Love that you want to release it. I just wanted to reach out because I haven't heard anything from your team on splits or anything like that. What up kind of thing. And I was very nice about it. And this was after like 4 months of me seeing all this stuff, and I'm being like, okay, you're kind of being disrespectful, but whatever. No response. Even though we're friends, it's not like my message got lost in the DMs or anything like that. We're friends, he would see it. So anyways, I'm like, well, it is what it is. My management team was like, should we go after him? And I'm like, why are we going after him? Like, my other friends at the time, they're not anymore, at the time were friends with him. So I didn't want to put people in the middle of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, over what too? Like, that person, even though they're a big influencer, they don't stream very well. So I'm like, what am I getting pissy about? $300? Like, that just doesn't, it's not worth it for me. It's just not. So I just kind of let it go and like moved on. And a lot of people were like, you should say something, like you should blast this person on social media, which is not really my style. Even though I'm doing this video now, I'm very much trying to keep it anonymous, try to leave the details out, whatever. But I also just think it's a kind of funny story. So anyways, I let it go, and I just leave it up to what's ever going to be mine is going to be mine, and whatever is coming to them is coming to them. Now, a lot of things have come to them in the last few months. A lot of things, which again, I'll leave you vague. And all of my friends came to me, they're like, dude, you called it. It came to him rough. And at this point, I don't want to be associated to that song because if I am, then people might think that I'm associated to him. And I'm like, nah, I'd rather just keep my distance. But I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like, yo, like, just know if I see that fool, it's on site, like, hands down. Like, I'm not going to act nice or anything. So we end up seeing him. He's with all of his group. And it was me and Lauren at this party. And so me and Lauren, you know, we're just like, whatever. Like, we're just going to keep our distance from him, right? Because we're not about him. Well, then we, like, catch eye contact, and then he's like, oh, my God, how are you guys? He's, first of all, like, acting so nice to Lauren, right? Because Lauren's technically the big star. And then he goes to me, he goes, oh, my gosh, how have you been? Like, do you still live in L.A.? I'm like, dude, you know I live here. Like, don't even start that. And then has the audacity, you guys, the audacity to be like, you and Lauren should come over the house. We should write. I was like, I've hit my limit. So he goes, we should write. And I had my arms crossed like this. And I looked at him and I said, but we've done that before. And he goes, and Lauren got like, I look at Lauren and Lauren's like, and he's like, gets so awkward. And he starts like fumbling around. He's like, and I was like, and he was like, no. Like, and then he starts talking about the space. He's like, no, I've switched up the space. Now the space, like, I went to Home Goods and like now the space looks nice. And I go, yeah, but we've done the whole songwriting thing before and like just didn't really work out. And he got so awkward, you guys. So awkward. And like, that's the other thing that people don't realize is people don't realize how old I am. They think I'm 21 or 24 or whatever, but I'm not. I'm a lot older than that. And once you get past a certain age, you just don't play into the bull crap and the niceties and the like things like that, because you start realizing that the people you want around you are good people, and it doesn't matter about playing nice with the people that just don't treat people correctly. And sometimes those people that don't treat people correctly need the hammer brought down on them. And I'm okay with being that hammer sometimes. Not that I'm mean. I'm not a mean person. I just, I feel like I'm backtracking here. But I only care about surrounding myself with people that are kind and treat other people with kindness. And this specific person, I had already heard that they had done what they'd done to me to other people over and over and over again. And me knowing that, and then me knowing what they did to me, I was like, I don't even care if he comes up against me. He's like, you're never getting a cut of this song, and puts all of his lawyers on me. I don't care, because I don't care about the song. Like, it's not a big song. It's not getting crazy numbers. Now, if the song got like 10 million and I'm like out maybe like 50K or something, or like not even, it wouldn't even be 50K. But if I was out like 15 grand, yeah, I'd probably put my lawyers on it and be like, yo, here's the voice memos. I was there, yada, da, da, da. And then I would do something about it. But in this case, I'm like, again, what's the point? It's no money. I'll tell you what the point is, though, is a lesson. And it's a lesson for you. So all that to be said is a lot of times people think this lifestyle is like so easygoing and so great. And for the most part, when you do what you love, it is. But there are a lot of things like this that happen that people just don't know, and people don't know about because it's behind the scenes. And, you know, a lot of people don't talk about it because it's dealt with behind the scenes and all this stuff. But I'll say this. If you are a musician and something like this has happened to you, you probably understand it. But second, I would say, one, pick your battles. Obviously, I was like, I'm not picking a huge battle with this person because financially it doesn't make sense. Like, you guys, a lot of times I find that a lot of artists will go to the death over 1%. And like, what's the difference of that in money? And like, what did you do to the relationships with the people because you were arguing over 1%? Like, that just doesn't, what is the point of all that? There is no point. You ruined a relationship. Yeah, you got your percentage, but who cares about the percentage? Like, you just ruined your relationship with that person. That's not worth it. And I wasn't willing to ruin my relationships with other friends of mine that were still associated with that person. Because again, what was the cost in money? $300, $500, even if it was $1,000, like it's not worth it. It's not worth ruining relationships over for something that dumb. 2 is you do need to stand up for yourself. Don't let somebody that just has a bigger following than you or more clout than you walk all over you, because you don't have to stand for that. And you don't have to, also, even if you let the person technically get away with it, you still don't have to allow them to think that they got away with it. And that was my thing. I was not going to allow him to think he got away with it. And if he would have really pushed it, I would have embarrassed him in front of all of his friends. Like right there, he was already embarrassed in front of his friends because he started acting stupid and like rambling and like being weird and stuff. And so his friends were already making fun of him. And if I would have just laid him out in the middle of all of that, I mean, it would have been like, wow, this girl just like rocked you. Because again, people think that I'm younger than what I am, and you're not going to outwit me in that situation. Like, you're just not. So, but stand up for yourself. You don't have to continually let somebody walk all over you. And if you really can't stand up for yourself, then have somebody else do it for you. A management team, something. I mean, my managers were ready to like throw down. So, and maybe at some point, maybe I will be like, but that person has so much heat on them. Like, they're canceled at the moment. So I'm like, I don't want to be associated with that person. But if you can figure out who it is, have at it. I'm sure you guys can figure out some timelines of who it might be. But that was just a little story time of something that had happened to me very recently. And then what's funny is it happened to me a while ago, but then this situation where we met up again happened very recently. And I was like, that's such an awkward, funny situation where I couldn't have planned it. And it couldn't have gone better, honestly. All right. See you guys next week. Peace.